The Great Hall of the Galaxy Council stood quiet that morning, banners of countless species hanging above, shimmering with light from 1,000 tiny suns trapped in crystal. The room had seen centuries of arguments, promises, and betrayals, but today it was filled with something more fragile than any treaty. Hope. The humans had arrived, their dark ships resting in orbit beyond the Council world, small compared to the massive fleets of ancient empires. Yet every hull carried a weight no one could measure, the weight of determination inside the hall. The human delegation walked with steady steps. They wore no heavy armor, no weapons at their sides, only simple suits with the flag of Earth upon their chest. Their leader, a calm man with eyes like stone, took his seat among the towering figures of alien races. For years, the galaxy had whispered that humans were dangerous, too wild, too unpredictable, too hungry for survival. Yet here they were, offering peace. The alien leaders shifted uneasily. Tall beings with scaled faces, winged creatures with sharp eyes, and silent figures whose skin shimmered like water. They listened as the human leader spoke. "We come not with chains, but with hands open," he said, his voice carrying through the chamber. "We have known war. We have known pain. But we believe peace is the only way forward." There was a silence. A long, heavy silence broken only by the sound of claws scratching against metal seats. Then one of the elder counselors spoke, his voice cold. "And why should we trust humanity? A species born on a death world, a people who fight even among themselves?" The human leader did not flinch. "Because we have learned from our fights, because we know the cost of war better than anyone." Some heads nodded. Others turned away. The session dragged on for hours, voices rising, words twisting like knives. Some species supported the human offer, others rejected it with sharp laughter. But hidden in the shadows, unseen by the crowd, messages were passing between alien envoys, quiet signals sent through secret channels. Plans already in motion, outside the hall, fleets gathered, not for peace, but for war, as the human delegation returned to their quarters that night. One of them whispered, "Do you think they will accept us?" Their leader paused, his hand resting on the door, his eyes heavy with doubt. "I think they will smile. Then stab us when the time comes." In the sky above the Council world, unseen drones watched the human ships, measuring their defenses, counting their numbers, plotting weaknesses. The humans, however, had grown suspicious. They noticed the unusual patrols. The way guards stood closer than before, the way alien eyes lingered a second too long. Tension rose like storm clouds, invisible but heavy, pressing against every breath on the third day. The Council was set to sign the treaty. The humans stood ready, the chamber filled with the sound of wings, claws, and voices, banners lowered in respect, pens prepared to mark the parchment that would declare peace across the stars. But before the ink could touch the page, the sky tore apart. A sound like thunder shook the world. Alien warships dropping from hyperspace, weapons already burning. The Council planet trembled as fire rained down from above. The banners fell. Smoke filled the chamber. Screams echoed as glass shattered. The human leader looked up at the broken ceiling, his voice calm even as chaos erupted. "So this is the peace they promised." Guards rushed forward, trying to protect their masters, but it was too late. Betrayal had begun. The humans ducked for cover, pulling the wounded to safety. But many were lost in the first strike, the dream of peace bleeding out on the Council floor. And in that moment, something changed. Every surviving human felt it. A fire deep in their chest, a fire that had been buried, a fire they had hoped to keep hidden. Wrath. The day peace shattered, humanity's wrath was lit, and the galaxy would soon learn what that truly meant. The Council world was in flames. Towers of glass and steel cracked open like dry wood. Smoke rose into the pale sky, and the sound of sirens mixed with the thunder of falling ships. What was supposed to be the birth of peace had become the cradle of war. The human delegation fought through the chaos, carrying the wounded, shielding the helpless. But everywhere they turned, they found betrayal. Guards who once smiled now raised weapons. Allies who once nodded in agreement now stood aside as death rained down. One young delegate shouted, his voice hoarse from smoke, "They planned this. They never wanted peace." Their leader pulled him forward, his jaw clenched. "We survive first. Then we answer." Alien fleets circled the skies like vultures. their weapons pounding human ships docked in orbit. One by one, the vessels of Earth lit up with fire, hulls splitting, crews screaming into the void. The humans who remained on the ground felt every explosion as if their hearts were being torn apart. Deep in the council hall, the elder councilors had vanished, taken through hidden doors, their escape tunnels carved long before the treaty talks even began. Peace was never their goal, only a trap, still. Not every alien joined the betrayal. Some smaller species tried to help, rushing into the fire with desperate cries, pulling humans from rubble, offering hidden passages. But their voices were drowned out by the roar of fleets that demanded humanity's destruction. In the dark streets, the humans gathered in a ruined plaza, blood staining their clothes, their faces hardened. They knew many would not live to see another sunrise. The leader looked at his people, his eyes burning with grief. "Remember this day," he whispered, his voice low but sharp. "Remember what they chose. They called us monsters. And today they proved themselves worse," one delegate coughed, his chest bleeding. "Our families, our world, they must know." The leader placed a hand on his shoulder, steady and firm. "They will know. Every soul on Earth will hear of this, and when they hear, the galaxy will never be the same. Above them, the last human flagship tried to break free from orbit, its engines blazing against the swarm. It lasted only minutes before the enemy fire cut through. The explosion painted the sky in red. Every human below watching as their last shield was ripped away, grief turned into something heavier. Not despair, but resolve, with stolen transport ships. The surviving humans fled the burning world, chased by alien hunters through broken skies. Every escape was costly, every moment another sacrifice. But one by one, the transports slipped into the black void of hyperspace, carrying the wounded and the furious back to Earth. The council world smoldered, its great banners ash, its proud towers broken and among the ruins. Alien leaders whispered that humanity was finished, a species broken, a flame that would flicker out. But the whispers were wrong. When the first human transport broke through Earth's atmosphere days later, scarred and battered, the message spread across the world, carried by voices choked with loss. The council betrayed us. They murdered our people. They struck while we offered peace, streets filled with silence. Families gathered around screens. Soldiers gripped their rifles tighter. Children asked questions their parents could not answer. Anger rose like a wave, a tide too strong to stop. Nations that once argued over borders now sat at the same table. Leaders who once distrusted each other now shook hands with steel in their eyes. The betrayal had done what no treaty ever could. It united humanity. The funerals were long and endless, rows of coffins, rows of names etched into stone. Tears fell, but with every tear came a promise never again. The leader of the delegation stood before a sea of mourners, his voice rough but steady. "They thought we were weak. They thought we would beg for mercy. But they do not understand us. We will not beg. We will not crawl. We will rise." His words echoed not just in the square, but across oceans, across mountains, carried on every screen, every radio, every whisper. And in the hearts of billions, a fire lit, the same fire the survivors carried from the ruins of the council world. Earth had been given its lesson, not in peace, but in betrayal. And now the galaxy would learn its own. For humanity had decided they would no longer ask for peace. They would carve their justice into the stars. The betrayal had been revealed, and the wrath of Earth had only just begun. The skies over Earth were gray the morning the fleets returned. Their hulls scarred, their crews broken. The betrayal was no longer rumor. It was truth carved into steel and bone. Every city gathered to hear the survivors, and every city wept. But grief did not last long. It hardened, it sharpened, it turned into something far more dangerous: unity. For centuries, Earth had been divided, nations locked in arguments, alliances shifting like sand. But the betrayal had erased those lines. Presidents and generals who once refused to share a table now sat side by side, their hands tight, their voices one. Factories roared with life. Forges burned through the night. Workers carried steel as if it were holy. Every machine that could build was turned to war. Tanks rolled from assembly lines, ships rose from shipyards, and weapons once locked away in secret vaults were brought into the light. Deep under mountains, hidden projects long denied by governments were awakened. The Ark program, the Iron Dawn fleet, the Helix cannons, weapons built not for defense, but for survival in case the stars turned hostile. The time for secrecy was over. The people of Earth watched as their skies filled with ships, some old, some new, some unfinished, but rushed into service. They did not complain. They cheered, for every ship meant one more chance to strike back. Soldiers marched in streets once used for festivals, their faces grim, their steps heavy, but their hearts alive. Humanity had been broken, and in that breaking a strength had risen. Among the commanders stood the leader of the delegation, the man who had survived the betrayal. His voice had carried through smoke and fire, and now it carried through nations. "They thought we would fall," he said before the Council of Earth. "They thought we would kneel, but we have risen, and we will show them what it means to strike a people who will not die." His words became a banner, whispered by workers at midnight, sung by children in the dark. Carved into the steel of new ships, the galaxy watched, thinking humanity would grieve in silence, but instead they saw something no one expected. A death world united, spies carried news back to alien leaders. Reports of shipyards that glowed day and night, of fleets gathering in oceans, of soldiers training with fury. The Council dismissed these reports at first, laughing, claiming humanity was too small, too weak. But the laughter faded as the months passed. Because the reports did not stop, they grew louder, darker, more urgent. "Earth has doubled its fleets," one spy wrote. "Their weapons are not like ours," another warned. "Their soldiers do not rest, they do not break," a third whispered. And behind all of it was the shadow of something greater, an unknown fleet hidden beyond Mars, a secret no spy could confirm. Only rumor. They called it the Iron Dawn, ships larger than anything humanity had ever built. Weapons untested but terrifying in design. Aliens who once mocked humans began to fear them. Council chambers filled with whispers. Did we strike too soon? Did we awaken the wrong enemy? But fear could not undo betrayal. The line had already been crossed on Earth. The preparations became ritual. Families sending sons and daughters with proud tears. Leaders visiting shipyards with silent prayers. Farmers giving food to feed armies. Humanity had become a single body, every heartbeat pushing toward the same goal. And in orbit above Earth, the first new fleet lit its engines, rows of ships rising like fireflies into the dark, their hulls marked with names of the fallen, their captains swearing oaths with voices that shook. The leader of the delegation watched from the command bridge of the flagship, his hands gripping the rail, his eyes filled with steel. "They wanted war," he said softly. "Then let them see what war truly means." As the fleet stretched its wings across the void, a signal pulsed through the stars. Not in words, but in movement, in power, in wrath. Humanity was no longer waiting. Humanity was no longer begging. Humanity had awakened. And the galaxy, vast and ancient, would soon feel the storm it had unleashed. The fleet of Earth left orbit in silence, no fanfare, no music, only the hum of engines and the quiet prayers of billions watching from below. Every city on Earth turned its eyes upward. Children pressed to windows, elders holding hands, all knowing that history was leaving their skies and would return changed forever. The ships moved in waves, lines of steel against the black. Destroyers, carriers, cruisers, and among them the massive Iron Dawn vessels, their hulls dark and untested, their cannons hidden in shadows. Even the soldiers on board whispered of them like legends. The first target was chosen not by chance, but by memory. The homeworld of the species whose fleets had fired the first shot on the Council world. It was there the betrayal began, and it was there humanity would answer. As the human fleet entered the system, alien defenses lit up, stations bristling with weapons, fleets rising from the atmosphere. Their commanders laughed at the sight of Earth's ships, still believing them small, still believing them weak. The laughter ended when the first Iron Dawn cannon fired, a beam of pure light cut across space, striking a defense station and splitting it in two as if it were paper. The explosion echoed across the system, waves of fire dancing against the planet's rings. Silence fell in command rooms as alien eyes widened. Then the rest of the fleet opened fire, missiles streaking, railguns roaring, fighters swarming from carriers like a storm of sparks. The sky became a battlefield of light and shadow. Human captains fought with fury. Every maneuver sharp, every strike precise. They did not waste fire. They did not waste lives. They remembered the betrayal, and they carved their justice into steel. Alien fleets charged with screams, their ships larger, their numbers greater. But the humans fought with something the galaxy had never seen before. A unity born not of fear, but of wrath. Every ship moved as if part of a single body, every commander willing to sacrifice for the whole. The battle raged for hours, the black void lit with fire brighter than suns. But when the smoke cleared, the human fleet still stood, scarred but unbroken, and the alien homeworld trembled as human ships descended into orbit. Yet the humans did not glass the planet. They did not slaughter the innocent. Instead, they targeted only military strongholds, weapon foundries, and command centers. Leaving cities untouched, it was not mercy. It was a message. A voice echoed from the flagship, carried across every channel. We strike not the weak, we strike not the children. We strike those who chose betrayal. Remember this. The words burned into the hearts of allies and enemies alike. News spread faster than fire. From star to star, world to world, whispers becoming roars. The humans had not only survived, they had struck back. And they had done it with a force no one could deny. In the council chambers, panic rose. Some demanded another united attack. Others begged for peace, but none could agree. For each feared that if they moved against humanity, their world would be next. And while they argued, the humans did not stop. They struck again and again, hitting supply routes, raiding fleets, tearing holes into defenses once thought unbreakable. Soldiers of alien empires spoke in hushed tones, telling stories of human pilots who fought until their ships were torn apart, of human marines who stood against armies with fire in their eyes, of commanders who smiled even in defeat, whispering, "We are Earth," before their ships exploded in light. The galaxy had seen wars before, wars that burned planets and swallowed stars. But this was different. This was personal. Every human ship carried the names of the dead. Every bullet carried the weight of betrayal. And every victory carried the fire of wrath. By the time the fourth alien world fell, the galaxy understood. Humanity was no longer asking for a seat at the table. Humanity was building its own table with steel and flame. And yet, in the silence after each battle, the human leader stood alone on the bridge. His eyes heavy, his voice quiet. "We did not want this. But they left us no choice," his officers heard him. But none spoke, for they too knew the truth. The galaxy had shattered peace, and now the fire of humanity stretched across the stars. Unstoppable, unending, the storm had begun, and nothing could turn it back. The war had burned across the stars for months, fleets broken, worlds scarred. The galaxy trembled each time the human armada moved. No empire felt safe, no council chamber felt strong. The name of Earth was no longer whispered with doubt. It was spoken with fear, but humanity did not strike endlessly. They chose carefully. Each blow aimed at those who betrayed. Each strike a message. And now the last message was ready to be spoken. The final enemy stronghold stood on a world of iron skies and red oceans. Towers rising like jagged spears, fleets thick in orbit. Every defense prepared for the storm they knew would come. And it came. The human fleet tore through the black. The Iron Dawn ships leading, their cannons glowing like suns. Missiles rained, fighters screamed. The void became a furnace of light. Alien commanders shouted in panic as formation after formation broke under human fire. But in the heart of battle, the flagship of Earth held still, its guns silent for a moment, its leader standing before the galaxy. His voice carried through every channel, every screen, every corner of space where ears would listen. "We did not begin this war," he said, his voice steady. "We came with open hands, and they were struck away. We offered peace, and we were given betrayal. They thought we would beg. They thought we would kneel. But we are humanity. We rise, we endure, and we remember." The words echoed even as battles raged. Alien soldiers paused. Alien civilians leaned closer to their screens. Even council members held their breath. "Hear me now," the human leader continued. "We do not strike the innocent. We do not burn the children. We strike those who chose to betray, those who spilled blood while smiling with false peace. We are not conquerors, but neither are we prey. Remember this day? Remember that when peace shattered, humanity lit the stars with wrath." Then he raised his hand, and the guns of the flagship roared. The enemy stronghold shook. Towers fell, fleets scattered. their proud defenses crumbling under the storm. Yet when the smoke cleared, the human fleet did not press further. They did not destroy cities. They pulled back, leaving silence behind. The message was clear. Humanity could destroy. But humanity chose restraint as the fleet withdrew. The leader gave one last command. Send the names of our dead, every council channel, every empire broadcast. Let them read the price they made us pay, and so across the galaxy, screens lit with endless lines of names. Names of mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, leaders, workers, soldiers. Every name a weight, every name a reminder. Alien citizens wept as they read, for the betrayal was no longer a story. It was truth carved into light. The council tried to speak, to gather, to plan, but their voices shook. For no one wanted to stand against the wrath of Earth any longer. No one wanted to invite another storm. And so silence fell, a silence not of peace, but of fear on Earth. The fleet returned, scarred but alive, greeted by billions. Cheers rising like thunder, banners raised, tears and laughter mixing in the streets. The wrath had been delivered, and humanity stood taller than ever before. But on the flagship, the leader stood alone by the window, his reflection in the glass, his eyes heavy with sorrow. "We wanted peace," he whispered, "but they left us no choice." An officer beside him asked softly. "What now?" The leader turned, his face set. "Now we wait. The galaxy has seen our wrath. They will not forget. But one day they may remember our offer too. The offer of peace if they dare to ask again." And so it ended. Not with conquest, not with surrender, but with a message carved into the stars. Humanity had shown the galaxy what it meant to betray. Humanity had shown the galaxy what it meant to rise. The day peace shattered had lit a fire that would never fade. And from that day forward, every empire, every council, every world looked to the stars and saw not just planets, not just fleets, but the shadow of Earth. A world once mocked, now feared, now respected. A world whose wrath had shaken the galaxy, and whose choice would shape its future.